Welcome to the success story of Asian Paints. Today we are going to talk about how SAP's transportation management was had a very impactful transformation from a logistics point of view for Asian Paints. This is Karthik Krishnan here. I head the global director for digital enterprise. Along with me, I have Ashish Khatri and from Asian Paints, and we have Bill King from SAP. Ashish, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, Karthik. Thank you for having me here today. Uh, I'm Ashish. I'm the CIO at Asian Paints. I've been with the organization for more than 3 decades. Started my career early on in IT. I've also worked in other functions within Asian Paints, supply chain, manufacturing, and HR as well. In the last 5 years, playing this current role of looking at the digital transformation of various aspects of Asian Paints across the globe, uh, and that's what keeps me busy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashish. Bill?
Thanks, Karthik. I'm Bill King. I'm the Director of Logistics Product Marketing here at SAP. Been with SAP for a little over 13 years, but been in the TMS space for over 25 years. Here at SAP, I focus on our go-to-market activities, our strategy, thought leadership, and excited to talk to you guys today.
Thank you, Bill. So moving on, Stellium relationships with SAS Asian Paints has been over multiple years. So we have shared a lot of success stories. We're talking about transportation today. We've been part of warehouse management as well, but focusing on what we have on the transportation. Together, we have navigated through numerous challenges, celebrated a lot of milestones, and a lot of synergies from an outcome perspective. So, just to give a brief, Asian Paints is the multinational paint. They deal in the paint industries. They're renowned for excellence. They are topmost on the when it comes to the market share, and they are leading on the innovations front. Be it any technology from an SAP or any other things which they needed to make sure that they're ahead of the times. And we want to share this unique customer story with you all, which transformed their logistics operations with a unique SAP TM implementation, right? So moving on, Ashish, question to you. You've been an early adopter for your digital logistics transformation, right from manufacturing to the end. That is the last milestone, last leg of the entire logistics. Can you give an overview of Asian Paints and its network so that we understand your lay of land?
Sure. As we are leaders in the Indian paint market for since more than 5 decades, we hold a fair amount of market share. It's up in the slide as you would see it. Close to about $3.5 billion revenue organization. A lot of that is largely in India. We also have two joint ventures which look at automotive and industrial paints. Which is a tie-up with the largest paint company in the world based out of the US called PPG. And their presence in India, we have a partnership for more than 2 decades now, more than about 24 years. Our strength really lies in the retail network, what is known as the decorative paint segment in India, which is looking at the consumer painting cycle, whether it be the projects business, new construction, or the repainting cycle, which is also pretty big in India. In the last 5 or 6 years, we have also been transforming ourselves as an organization, and moving into decor. So hence our vision is really to bringing joy to people's lives, moving away from just paint on the walls to things between the walls. And we have entered into many categories. Kitchens, bath were the early forays. And since then, we've added about 14 to 15 more product categories, right from furniture, rugs, fabrics, UPVC windows, doors. So anything that is available as a as a decor item which a consumer might need while doing up his or her house, and we do provide this as a service offering to the consumer. So that's been the trajectory of the organization, clearly moving from products to services and moving more from a B2B to a B2C kind of organization where we have increased our presence to the direct consumer. Paint is still extremely large, and the example or this case study that we are going to talk about today is largely in the paint segment, because as I said, the foray into the decor segment is about 4 to 5 years old. It's still growing, but that's where the growth really lies for us. But in the paint, we are still extremely large, and that's where this thing is. If you can just move to the next slide, Karthik.
Yeah.
So this is just a summary of our distribution network of how we are organized. Since we cater to the entire country, we have 8 manufacturing plants spread geographically across in the various parts of India, so that you are able to reach the consumer in a faster fashion. We then ship material. Each of these paint plants have large DCs which stock material once it is produced, which is then shipped either directly to the level 4, which is our retail distribution warehouses. These are company-owned warehouses from where we sell the last mile to more than about 75,000 retailers directly. So that's one leg. In some slow-moving material would also move to something known as the transshipment locations, which which are about 7 across the country, and they would then move the material to the depots based on a closer demand pattern, so you are able to aggregate inventory at the transshipment locations. So that's the whole supply system. We obviously are very old SAP customers. We went live with our first implementation on SAP way back in 99 2000, and a lot of our backend systems have been working on the SAP platform very successfully. And as you said, we have early adopters in a lot of technology domains, and a lot of our distribution systems in terms of day-to-day planning, shipment planning, load consolidations are actually done on the SAP platform. So that's the the overall lay of the land in terms of our distribution network. And this example, this case study is largely catering towards the transportation management that we implemented at our paint plants, which is to optimize the load building patterns from our paint plants to our depots. And hence the leg which connects these 8 paint plants to around 140 depots. And we have which is what we call as the primary leg, and also the secondary, which connects the transshipment locations to the depots. So these 2 legs is where bulk of our material in large trucks moves, and that's where we have used transportation management as a technology. As you said, we've also used advanced warehouse management, partnering with Stellium in our implementation of our warehouses in each of our manufacturing plants, which are extremely automated.
Thank you. Thanks, Ashish, on that. So, with that being said, what were your key considerations that influence the choice of SAP in transportation management? From you mentioned about primary and secondary movement where you wanted to focus, and compared to what you have been using as of date.
Yeah. So okay, there is a slide here, but I just like to narrate some of the key elements out here. Just one clear pointer is a lot of the material that still moves from our plants is non-palletized, right? So unlike a lot part of the world where these loads are palletized, this is a unitized load, given the nature of the product and the the optimization of the space in the truck. So that's how we are organized. Now, typically for years we have been using custom algorithms that optimize the load patterns in this leg, and they're really geared towards optimizing only one constraint, right? and they were not really optimized for looking at simultaneous constraints. So that was one clear driver. As we have automated the plants, we really wanted to ensure that the turnaround time of the trucks is very efficient, which hence it's important to look at various constraints in the plant so that it is a feasible output. We also did find that the operating teams at the plants sometimes would change, the suggested deliveries because some of their constraints are not modeled very well. It also meant that it became a slightly more person dependent, operation rather than a completely automated, kind of operation. Uh, uh, and hence, these were the areas that we were really trying to optimize. Obviously, any custom algorithm that is built
Yeah,
also is needs to be changed and tweaked, and it at times becomes difficult to keep pace with the changes happening, and hence we would also get constrained in terms of modifying some of these elements ourselves to keep change with the demand patterns. The other thing from a market perspective that was also happening is that we wanted to react much faster to the changes happening in the market, because some of these deliveries are maybe 12 to 18 hours away from our depots in terms of lag times, and hence any demand condition change happened, we wanted to react faster from our manufacturing plants, and the load consolidation algorithm needed to really look at this as well. So I would say these were the clear, drivers. Old code, not looking at all the constraints, and not optimizing most efficiently, and maybe also need to be agile in terms of changes that are taking place in the market.
absolutely. So there are two things coming. I mean, under hearing what you said about your current issues, so there are two things. One, looking for there has to be a complementing a technology or a robust TMS which you need to choose. So, what are the areas which you are choosing, and can you just throw some light on that?
So I think the one clear area was obviously we needed to be close to the ERP,
Yeah,
because it needs a lot of back and forth in terms of the delivery creations to be executed, and sometimes you may find that the entire load as planned is not fitting in the truck, and you needed to move it back. So having a tighter integration with the ERP was extremely important. The second thing was that we really needed to have an algorithmic approach so that you can model constraints and really optimize. So I think these were the top two criterias that really or which we were evaluating. Obviously there would be a lot of others in terms of the stability, resiliency of the tool, the partner that we work with, and their ability to understand some of the solvers and heuristics. Having used a lot of planning solutions in the past, we are cognizant of the fact that sometimes algorithms tell you things that you do not realize yourself in the as part of the business patterns, right? And
yeah,
hence you need to trust the application at times. Right? So that was the other key element, that we needed a trusted partner as well as a provider who could maybe also work with us to see if something's not working, why it's not working, and how to improve on it. So I think these were the top 2 or 3 areas that we really looked at.
right. Thanks, thanks, Ashish. So this brings to a fact, obviously, Bill, from what you see, similar challenges from all the customers you have dealt with in this similar industries or the industries where you see a TM definitely makes sense that it brings a lot of value in them. So, how's your approach on this?
Um, in terms of like, can you rephrase the question?
Yeah. So, what challenges do you see from other customers? Like Ashish said about
Yeah.
his own challenges, right? But there are similar challenges where TM is solving in other industries as well. So, what is your point of view on that?
Yeah, I mean, we typically see customers deploying TM for a number of reasons. One is, they need to basically, some folks are coming from paper and pencil. So they need a way to systemically manage their transportation. Other folks have been fragmented. They may have part of it, manual, part of it automated. So, some folks are looking for an end-to-end transportation management. So I can cover everything from order management all the way through settlement. And then others are looking for, that robust planning that Ashish was talking about is basically, and the planning can be, it could be load consolidation, load planning, it could be carrier selection, it could be a combination of the two. And then it's also a matter of, how are folks, are they, only currently, managing, part of their business. They are either, they're using a third party, or they're only managing like domestic or inbound, and they want to have a system that can manage the entire thing. So they have total visibility to their transportation operations. So from a control and visibility perspective, but then also looking for opportunities that they might not have. And Ashish, like you were saying, sometimes you realize things that you didn't once you bring everything into a system like this. So, and then, we talk about EWM or warehouse management is having a system that is tightly connected to not just the ERP, but also to the warehouse, so that when I'm, creating a transportation plan, I know I'm creating a plan that will work for the warehouse. Or I'm taking into consideration some of the constraints in the warehouse. So I'm not just basically building a plan that is not executable. And inversely, getting, when we send something, when we're building the plan, we know from the warehouse what some of their constraints are as well. So there's a number of factors there.
Thanks, Bill. That was pretty insightful. So, coming to on the implementation itself, Ashish. So, can you just throw some lights about your uniqueness of what is the solution itself, what we are looking for, and how the implementation was overall in terms of how did you plan your implementation?
So as I was saying earlier, and I think Bill alluded to that as well. I think the whole thing was a lot to do about planning and meeting constraints and getting the most efficient thing out, right? So we were really looking at things like load optimization to try to see the maximum fitment in a particular truck. As I said, we had a unitized load, so that needs to get managed. We are also looking at how efficiently material is coming from the automated warehouse, and you're meeting a certain delivery timeline, right? So a TAT for ensuring that the truck load is built in that finite amount of time. Another important element for us, which is critical, is about damages, right? So
Yeah.
and we have heuristics which really calculate or will tell us that what's the mix of SKUs that need to go in a truck to minimize damages because they are unitized. So that was the other thing that we wanted the solver to take into consideration. Obviously, the critical SKUs, which as I was saying, as the demand is changing, how do you get the most critical SKUs into the load planning exercise? So these were the 4 or 5 key things that we were really trying to optimize. Running the algorithm and refining the data elements to serve the outputs, I think was a clear learning, right? And
Yeah.
going back to the old adage, right? You can be as good as the data richness that is provided. The solution was really coming through. We had to iterate over the solver over quite some months, refine the algorithm, and that's where a lot of the expertise from Stellium as well as from SAP key resources really helped us in building that. We had to convince this over 8 plants because finally you're replacing human intelligence of what's best to go in the truck towards a solution, and you need to convince each plant manager and his operating people that the algorithm is probably better off, right? So that was the other challenge that we took, and hence we did a pilot. We rolled it out to one plant. We had the central team who works with the plant operations team to get the buy-in first and then have the rollout to each of the manufacturing plants. Each plant has its own challenge. The layout and the constraint might be different. Some are semi-automated, some are completely automated. So, how does the same solution address different solutions? sorry for that, was the other thing that also did come in. So it took us time in this space. I think the other element was also to get the integration between SAP as well as, sorry, the SAP ERP and TM working seamlessly. And I think from an architecture perspective, that's one thing that we found extremely well designed and architected from SAP in terms of its integration between TM as well as ERP, the flows of the deliveries, STOs, and how they move back and forth, I think is extremely well tightly integrated.
Yeah.
But we needed to get that configured right. So I would say getting the data elements right for the solvers themselves, and getting the integration story completely in control, I think were the three key success factors. And obviously working with the operations team to convince them and to prove to them that the solver is probably getting a better output, right? I think that was our real use case.
Yeah, correct. So I also remember, Ashish, this entire thing, even you have to put trust in that system. We had to go through a full-time proof of concept, right?
Mhm.
Right, to make sure that we see what we want to see there, like from an Asian Paints, like these are 5 6 things we want to really look at before we really went to this. So how do you think that was giving the it was very effective before you really went through this overall thing, and what was your experience on this overall?
As I said, I think there were various teams that really needed to get involved to deliver that. While the solution has the broad capabilities, it needs to be. I mean, there are various options. You have to select the right ones. You have to select which algorithms, and what constraints you're really optimizing there. So I think and you do require different expertise coming from different sets of people. Obviously the Stellium, we had people from SAP's development also involved at times when we were looking at a lot of algorithms there. I think the POC obviously was done right in the beginning phase. That was to ensure that we are on the right track, and I think that formed the early guardrails, so as to say, that the end implementation really has to achieve. And these were some of the parameters that we had really put down. As you can see the numbers,
Yeah.
98, 99% utilization. Sortation is about the number of loose picks that go into the end product. So if you have too many, then your turnaround time increases. So how do you really ensure that what is planned is actually adhered to, right? Otherwise, the operations team can bypass some of the elements. So ensuring that that's a feasible, acceptable plan was important. And obviously the profile adherence, that is, so ensuring that what solution is coming out
Yeah.
is implementable, right? So I think that was the focus of the POC. Having got that, we then, as I said, got into a pilot plant and then rolled it out to all the AWS.
Thanks. So, Ashish, by the way, you also, as we were, I hear from you also, you are a complete adoption from a EWM standpoint as well, extended warehouse management. So, from an overall integrated approach, I know this TM was very focused on a specific problem you have to solve, but you also are rolling out and moving into the EWM. Almost you are in a stage where you have implemented EWM most of your locations, right? So recently you also went live with one of your locations very successfully from a scalability. So how are you looking more from an integrated approach? Because these two are existing in your landscape. Now it needs to have synergy. So how is your approach in terms of your integrating transportation to your EWM?
You're right. I think we have been adopters of EWM for many years now, and a lot of the automation that we use, we do not use the automation vendors warehouse management solutions, but we use our own. We use the SAP EWM for that, and that integrates with all the whether it's the crane subsystems or the conveyors, the STVs, etc. So I think that's an extremely important piece. The scale at which we operate, resiliency is extremely important for the solution to be operating at. and hence, integrating any signals from the EWM back onto the load building solution, which is the transportation management, is important, right? So what's in the design of the EWM, needs to get executed also at the transport layer, right? So I think that integration is important, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, that's the element that we've really built into. Uh, yeah, we've looked at solutions which are outside of the SAP domain, but I think, as I said, even the integration between the S4 and the transportation management and EWM has been architected very well. So that really makes it a seamless operation to the end users. It's immaterial of where the solution is really coming from.
Excellent. Thanks. I think that gives a lot of insight. So, question to Bill. So, hearing what Ashish spoke about from an integration. So, what do you think is should be the strategy for customers considering an integrated landscape?
Um, from an integrated landscape perspective, I mean, obviously, if you're an SAP shop,
Yeah.
and Ashish, thanks for the kind words and confirmation about the integration. Um, it's there's the pre-built integration from an ERP perspective, both from the order management side as well as from the financial side on the end. And then from the warehousing side, it's one of those things where you've got options that you need to consider. So from EWM or extended warehouse management, we have integration. One of the things, and I'll talk about that when we talk about the future and the roadmap. There's a concept with relatively recent in the past 2-3 years called advanced shipping and receiving, where we integrate the two, where you actually don't even duplicate the record. You're sharing the record. So you create a freight order either in TM or EWM, and then the other system just works off of that. In parallel, or in the past, we had a different type of integration that's still viable. It's called, basically it's based on the transportation unit. So you have a freight order that you create in TM, and then you hand it over to EWM, and they create a transportation unit. So you've got options that you can consider. It's obviously ASR, or advanced shipping and receiving, is the future, it's the strategic direction, but it's different ways that you can connect the two systems. And then if you expand beyond just terms of warehousing and in terms of landscape, then you also have, how do you communicate with the outside world? How do you collaborate with the third-party carriers that are moving your freight? And that's where we have solutions within SAP called Business Network for Logistics. And within it, you have freight collaboration, and you have global track and trace, and you have intelligent insights. You have different, capabilities that you can look at. Freight collaboration is basically helps you with, in terms of like it's called, collaborate with those carriers, basically securing carriers that will agree to move the freight for you, provide simple milestone updates, and more importantly, then also be able to manage and collaborate on the financial side of things, basically in terms of invoices. Global track and trace is much more, that how do I know where my goods are? How do I track them? How do I generate alerts to the respective stakeholders in terms of, am I running late? Am I running on time? Am I running early? Things like that. And then intelligent insights on top of that is basically giving you a much broader, much more executive view, at looking at your entire network and looking at, okay, not just where my stuff is, but what are the potentials that I wouldn't necessarily see if I'm still looking at that granular single freight order at a time level. I'm looking at it either globally, regionally, or just, for my given, plant, or my given part of the country. That kind of thing. So, I mean, those are just some of the different ways that you'd want to look at from a landscape, broadening it, connecting with other parts of the process.
Thanks, Bill. That was pretty insightful. I'll just move on to the implementation benefits. So today, Ashish, once you have done it, so how do you see what is the outcome? So there's always an outcome you measure, right, to make sure that you got what you are looking for. So would you just throw some light on your post-implementation benefits?
Yeah, so I think, as I said, we've implemented it at 7 plants, 8 plants we have, but I think the 8th plant is under construction.
Hmm.
There's going to upgrade, so we're not looked at it over there. One of the most important thing is that, what percentage of the suggestions is actually implemented, right? And we track that, which is, more than 90%. There may be some constraint which is not, getting adhered, and maybe there is a manual override that the
Yeah.
plant or the operations team does. So that's a very high, usage itself in terms of adoption. And if you
Yeah.
look at the, benefits, I think the real benefit was about ensuring the delivery of the critical SKUs in the market, right? And
Hmm.
we track that. Better load plan from a vehicle utilization perspective is what we have really been achieved, and we are, reduced our, damage profiles coming out of the plant as well, right?
True.
So this is obviously tracked on. Actually, these are real KPIs for our, for our manufacturing plants. So this is not something that they are not responsible for. It's something that they anyway have to deliver, and this becomes a real tool for them to, improve on. So adoption is never a challenge, and it's also that, as they look at areas to improve their own KPIs,
Hmm.
you do find, since the solution has been implemented, corner cases, that needed to get solved. How do we solve that? How do we make it better and push the boundary there?
Yeah.
That's been the experience.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's fantastic to hear. With that being said, nobody stops at when it comes to technology. Nobody stops, right? There's always innovations over and beyond what we normally go forward. So I think we need to talk about innovations both from how SAP Bill, from your side. What are the future innovations on the TM side? It could be an integrated scenario or from an overall supply chain, and if you can just throw light on those, that will be great.
Yeah, I mean, as you can see on the slide, I mean, in terms of areas that we're innovating, there's a couple different themes, if you will. One of the things that I've already mentioned advanced shipping and receiving, the AD Advanced SR you'll see on there. It's a new way of integrating TM and warehouse management, which have really been uh, integrated for as long as I've been with the company. And it's just we've looked at ways to improve on that and innovate on that. And I mentioned already, ASR is basically taking it where, you're not even replicating records. You're actually, so there's no data latency. There's no issues in terms of keeping things in sync. You're able to actually work off of one record. So everybody's working off one version of the truth, if you will. And that's an area that we've started a couple of years ago, and we'll continue to work on. You'll see that basically we've had the ability to deploy that if they're that concept with TM and EWM. They didn't have to necessarily be in the S4 ERP environment. Now it can be deployed if you have them decentrally deployed. And then coming soon, there's also the ability to do that along with global trade services. So from an international perspective. Another area you'll see from a theme is sustainability, which again is one of those terms that I feel like we all have to consider nowadays. One of the features that we released late last year, was emissions tracking within TM. So you can now track at a truck level. What are the emissions that you're basically you're generating? So you can actually store at the truck level what the expected emission rate is, and then not only report that, but also use that as an input to the optimization. So one of the things that Ashish was talking about, we now actually consider this as yet another criteria. So I'm not just considering time and cost. I'm also going to now be able to consider how do I minimize the emissions for my trips. Okay. And then also be able to basically say, okay, this is what the plan was. I can also get that information back via BN4L. The carriers can actually report what the actual emissions were. So you can actually at a load level, at freight order level, you can see what your planned versus actual was. And then also you can not to see that, you can also allocate it all the way down to the item level as well. So you can see not just from a truck, but also, on the different, I think you said like 30 different SKUs on one truck, you could potentially see what the emissions were at each SKU level. Okay. And then going forward next year, you'll see on the far right, Green Ledger. That's a much broader sustainability initiative across SAP. What's looking at sustainability, not just from a transportation perspective, but across my organization. We're now plugging in the transportation aspect of that into the Green Ledger. So they're getting, not just from manufacturing, not just from, standard operations, but they're also going to be able to get, logistics sustainability factors. And, again, excuse me, other areas, in terms of themes, multimodal consignment you'll see on there, that's kind of related to ISR. It's a consignment is a new type of object we introduced a couple of years ago. We're actually going to have that so that if you have a multi-leg, multimodal trip, that consignment will be modeled across all of the different legs. And then probably the other big theme, nowadays you have to think about artificial intelligence or AI. We've got different use cases that are coming out later this year in Q4. We actually have two use cases. One is called intelligent goods receipt, which you can see on the screen. And that's actually a pretty interesting one where anybody who is managing their inbound transportation, I'm sure everybody is familiar with this, best laid plans of mice and men, if you will. You may have planned it, but when some percentage of the trucks that arrive, there's no digital record, so that when he gets to the gate guard shack or gets to the warehouse door, there's no record to match it against. So it's like, what do I do with it? And what intelligent goods receipt does is you basically not just take a scan of the paperwork, but that you're looking at that scan and actually pulling. This is where the AI is looking. It's actually been trained to look at all the relevant fields, pull the relevant fields off of that that paperwork scan, and then create the consignment within TM. Okay, so that then you can continue the receiving process. Okay, so it's not just, it's building on. A lot of folks will say, well, OCR. This is actually above and beyond that, because we're using Gen AI to look off of just the scan information to digitally and automatically create that record. And some of the estimates we've seen is it has a potential time savings of anywhere from 50 to 75% of the time it would take to do that, do that work. Obviously, the more volume you have and the higher labor cost countries you have are going to see the most benefit, because it's going to basically save a lot of time there and a lot of labor cost. The other AI use case we have coming is conversational planning. And that's within the transportation cockpit, which is the main workspace within TM. That's where the planners spend the majority of their time. And that's where they're basically either manually planning or reviewing the results of the optimizer and tweaking it as they need to. Well, what we're doing now is basically using conversational planning, which means you can use natural language to either type or speak to the feature, and basically find either demand that you need to plan, or find demand that you want to look at for analysis. And then not only that, but also create freight orders or adjust freight orders. So you're actually, again, from a productivity perspective, greatly improving your productivity, because you're able to quickly find that information, so you don't have to spend as much time querying or building queries that you would then have to reuse. The other thing we were able to do with this feature is you're able to basically, if you've already have demand selected or freight order selected, you can ask the conversational AI to display additional information that may not have already been configured for your screen, so that you might have had like 5 or 6 criteria or dimensions. You're able to say, can you please show me, X, Y, and Z? And that wasn't necessarily on the screen, and it dynamically adds that to the screen for you. So again, from a productivity perspective, it's helping you get information accessible quicker to the end user when and how they need it. And those are some of the big areas. Like I said, you have other things on here like support of JIT and JIS. That's actually very specific to the auto industry, but it's just in time and just in sequence calls. And then trailer container management is looking at how do we manage basically as stuff is coming off the line, we automatically feed it in the truck, facilitating that process, making it simpler and more streamlined in terms of connecting from different upstream systems into TM. And those are just some of the other areas. And of course, this is all subject to change. And next time we have a call, there might be some additional stuff that'll actually be on here, or we might even have delivered some of this stuff depending on the timing of that. So.
Thanks, Bill. That's a lot and fantastic and looks amazing. I think, Ashish, I'm sure looking at this, you are already running a lot of stuff in your mind. So
Yeah,
how
yeah.
are you?
I
Yeah.
think the element of green ledger and the element of having emissions at a truck level really sounds, it looks very exciting, right? And that's some of the things that we will be looking also in the future, right? And very, because that's the other thing that we are also really trying to optimize in terms of loads and report it in that fashion, right? So I think it makes a lot of sense.
It's
Fantastic.
it's one of the things I always tell folks is the transportation people, we were green before green was, cool, because it just made sense for us from a business perspective. So
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Thanks. So Ashish, that brings to the and almost close to the end of the session. So, how is your roadmap? How is your continuous innovation looking like within Asian Paints?
I think from a EWM and transportation management, I think obviously we keep looking at pushing the boundaries, improving elements. But hearing to Bill, and I must share that we are also looking at a lot of stuff around AI and also Gen AI, looking at advanced forecasting solutions, looking at AI ML algorithms there. Been looking at how you can serve internal customers better by providing information from backend systems, as served out queries, right? So you have a lot of examples of employee bots which talk of self-service, but a lot of the sales teams also need information of supply chain deliveries, right? So
Hmm.
how could you serve that better and differently than a dashboard using Gen AI, right? So a lot of stuff, and we are also looking at SAP embedded AI solutions as well as the AI, the business AI cockpit, kind of frameworks to deliver some of these.
and actually, one of the things you mentioned forecasting, one of the things that we have in place already, more from a consulting type of approach, is being able to take the forecast data from, say, an IBP and use that in TM. A little bit more in the procurement, you see their reverse auctioning, but basically use the forecasted demand, bring that into TM, translate it into forecasted needs for trucks. So basically,
Mm.
the forecast is for the next 6 months on a weekly basis, X number of widgets. Well, what does that translate into in terms of number of trucks per week per lane that we can then use when we're doing our procurement for rate information or capacity information? We're not just basing it on historical within TM. We're actually leveraging forecasting information from IBP demand. On the flip side, they're actually leveraging our capabilities from a load planning, like you guys have been working with, so that they can do not just that really simple rough cut, okay, X number of pounds or kilos will fit into a trailer, not taking into account stackability, placement, axle balancing. They're basically, pulling and using our algorithm in that regard to basically give a more refined approach when they create the requisitions.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. So, yeah, that brings to the last question of the webinar. Thanks. I think that was an amazing session. So, definitely, we've been part of as Stellium, we've been as a gold partner with SAP working for many years. And Ashish, I would like to hear what was your approach and how you went ahead and shortlisting that Stellium is the right fit for you in terms of implementation of the TM?
So as I said, we've been partners with a lot with Stellium on a lot of the EWM implementations prior to TM.
Yeah.
And we do look at building partnerships with service providers as well as product people who give us solutions and who know us. And it's important that organizations understand each other
Yeah.
in terms of not just the lay of the land, but the way of working, right? And I think at times we work with Stellium in different models, right, at different times, right? So it would be a lot involvement in project management, in design, in delivery, execution. Some projects, maybe they played some parts. In TM, obviously, they played the entire thing. But having a partner who's flexible, who is also looking at the customer and where he is in a particular life cycle is important for us. So I think obviously we don't evaluate a partner for every solution. Once you have a trusted partner, then you keep working with him and build that capability as we go along. So happy to have been associated with Stellium for that long, and hope we continue to do so in the future.
Absolutely. So the one of the seed questions we have is uh, so how are you looking from a version upgrade from Bill, the question is to you. A lot of customers may be using from a older version of TM, right, on the 9.5, 9.6. So what is the upgrade strategy looking like for those customers moving into the S4?
So good question. We've actually got migration tools in place to help customers from the Business Suite TM. Specifically, once you're on to 9.5 or 9.6, which hopefully you are, the migration tools will actually help you migrate your configurations and your master data over to S4. And then basically, typically what folks would do is they would do a cutover. So you would basically, and that they'd work with folks like yourself to, basically do the migration, and then also to do the cutover planning so that, basically, as of, we'll say, like, on a given Friday, my demand, is going to continue to come into the old business suite, but then starting on Monday, the demand's going to go into S4, so that you can have that smooth cutover. But we've got tools in place for customers to make that easier for them, to make that shift.
Got it. Thanks. That is good. Uh, yeah. So the next question would be, so we do not currently run SAP TM and we are evaluating using as part of the S4 implementation. The question comes around, what version is best for using the basics shipping in S4 TM? Should it be go into the embedded? It should be users are looking from a decentralized. What is the approach? How should customers decide on transportation being using on the embedded or decentralized?
Is that for me again?
Yes, Bill. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right. Really, it's if the question's really how do I decide? I heard two different things: basic versus advanced, and embedded versus decentral.
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay. So the basic versus advanced, and there's content out there that you can look at, but basically, or essentially the basic capabilities in S4, the basic transportation capabilities, are really just to facilitate the end-to-end ERP process to make sure as I'm manufacturing things, as I'm selling things, I can actually get it out the door. But the advanced is when I need to do more than just that, just the bare minimum. Okay. The advanced is where I need that, communication, or basically, really big thing is load planning and optimization. that you don't have that with basic. With advanced, you get the optimization engine. You also get more advanced analytics. It's not just the really simple business warehouse type of analytics. You get the core data services, which a type of analytics, which actually is very interesting, because basically I'm going to look at and use the KPIs and identify what trends are happening, and then as things start to go positive or negative, I can potentially even drill down into the individual freight order that's causing a trend, or that's causing an exception. And you're actually drilling into production data. You're not drilling into data that may be 2 or 3 days old. And those are some of the key highlights for advanced versus basic. From embedded versus decentral, that, and for folks who understand, S4 TM can be deployed embedded in your ERP, so that you actually, are again, from an integration perspective, you're not really integrating. As you save a sales order, it's available in the same database within TM from a planning perspective. Okay. So you're basically sharing the master data within the same database. You're even sharing the dynamic order data within the same database. So for some folks, that is very, very appealing. Other folks, they want to have TM deployed decentrally, because for various reasons. They want to have TM not subject to the same maintenance schedule as ERP, or they may want to have a central TM deployment that could connect to multiple ERPs, whether they be S4, whether they be ECC, whether they be third party. So they may have that as an approach for that reason. That is one thing that you can do with S4 TM. You can actually integrate with any of the SAP ERP flavors, ECC or S4. Hopefully we're seeing more people in S4, or if they need to, if they're transitioning from another ERP, you can connect to it, and this could be the first thing you start with. So really, there's a lot of different factors that you need to consider, whether you want to deploy it embedded or decentral.
That is fantastic, Bill. So we are on the top of the thanks, Bill, and thanks, Ashish. This takes us to the end of the webinar. We'll have any questions, we would definitely email it to you when we post it. And definitely thanks time again, sharing your Asian page story, Ashish, Bill as well, all the valuable insights. Thank you all.